Good afternoon. President has 3 events today that are open to the press pool, and there's a lot of action to cover. So I wanted to make sure you all have the most up-to-date information on the omnibus. This bill is so important on many fronts, from school safety and troop funding to opioids and veterans care. To give you all a detailed rundown and answer a few questions, we have OMB Director Mick Mulvaney and Director of Legislative Affairs Mark Short with us here in the briefing room. I'll bring them up now. They'll provide some details and answer your questions on this topic. At the conclusion of their Q&A, our press team is around, as always, to answer any further questions you may have on news of the day. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll turn it over to these guys.
Thanks, Sarah. We're just going to make a brief opening statement because I know the questions are probably what you all want to get to anyway. Let's cut right to the chase. Is the president going to sign the bill? The answer is yes. Why? Because it funds his priorities. We've talked for the last, 3, 4, 5, 6 months about trying to get the president's priorities funded, and this omnibus bill does that. It funds national defense. As you heard Sarah mention, it gives the troops the increase that we were trying to get them in their compensation. It funds opioids. It funds school safety. It's a tremendous increase in workforce development, something that doesn't get a lot of attention, but this administration has been pushing since we got here. It actually starts taking a look at funding infrastructure. And it also does a lot of what we wanted, not everything we wanted, but a lot of what we wanted on immigration. So all things considered, when we look at the bill, we have to weigh what we asked for and what we had to give away to give it. Is it perfect? No. Is it exactly what we asked for in the budget? No. Were we ever going to get that? No. That's not how the process works. When appropriation bills have to have 60 votes in the Senate, which they do, you're going to always have to rely on Democrat votes in a Republican majority like we have. We need 9 Democrats to support this bill, so there was no chance of everything that we wanted passing. This is probably a good opportunity to bring up the idea of a line item veto. If the president had that, this bill would look a lot different by the time it became law. But we do not have that opportunity. It'd be a good time to look at the rules in the Senate that drive us to these types of end results. But all things considered, in the balance, the president supports the bill, looks forward to signing it before the funding, the lapse in appropriations by midnight tomorrow night. You want to say anything? Or you want to? Yes.
Thanks, Mick. As Director Mulvaney can certainly give you guys more detail, his team puts together a budget that submits to Congress in February. Congress is supposed to complete an appropriations process by September 30th at the end of the fiscal year. What we've endured since then is 6 continuing resolutions that Secretary Mattis has continued to tell us is debilitated in many cases what he needs to do. We have equipment that he is needing to repair, that he would rather purchase new equipment. We have one of the greatest priorities here was to rebuild the military, and this bill will provide the largest year-over-year increase in defense spending since World War II. It'll be the largest increase for our men and women in uniform in salary in the last 10 years. Additionally, it provides, as we've talked about, one of our signature priorities regarding $1.6 billion for the wall. It also provides a 10% increase for ICE's budget, as well as a 12% increase for DHS overall. A couple additional things that we were pleased this bill, as you know, after the tragic school shootings, there are a couple of legislative matters that we'd asked the Congress to adopt. One was the Cornyn-Murphy bill, better known as Fix NICS, as well as the Stop School Violence Act, providing an additional $2 billion for school safety, focused on purchasing equipment and personnel. Both of those bills are included in the omnibus, which we're very pleased about. So as Mick outlined from the start, this process is one that certainly leaves a lot to be desired, and it's one in which the appropriations process in Congress has been broken now for 22 years. It's been 22 years since 1996 when actually an appropriations process worked and the president signed a bill. And instead, we've been left with continuing resolutions. That leaves us with, unfortunately, somewhat of a Hobbesian choice of, do you have a continuing resolution again, or do you actually begin to build the things that you laid out as priorities, including national security and border security? So we're pleased with that, and hence the president has agreed to support the bill.
So I hear from both of you a lot of talk about spending increases, defense, ICE, infrastructure. $1.3 trillion to get us to October. A lot about what is in here in terms of the money going out, but none of the fiscal responsibility. What happened to the Republican Party? The Republican Party now controls all branches of government. What happened to you? I mean, to Director
Well,
Mulvaney, I mean, your own colleagues at the Freedom Caucus called this bill an insult to the American taxpayer. It's
I know
a big...
Mr. Acosta's not here today to ask that question. Do you really expect me to give you the same answer I gave Jim? We don't control all of the government. When you have to have 60 votes in the Senate, there's only 51 Republicans. We do not control the Senate under the current rules. Therefore, we have to give the Democrats something. This is the same discussion that you and I had back when we cut the caps deal a couple months ago that led us here. Remember, this is the second step of the caps deal. We raised the caps a couple months ago. Now we spend up to the caps today. And in order to get the defense spending primarily, but all the rest of our priorities funded, we had to give away a lot of stuff that we didn't want to give away and would not have given away if we were really in charge of the Senate. So no, this is how it works. This is what a bill looks like when you have 60 votes in the Senate, when the Democrats get a chance to take their pound of flesh in order to defend the nation. In the
What do you
back,
say to your
yes,
colleagues, your former colleagues in the Freedom Caucus? I mean, you wouldn't be voting for this
listen,
in Congress, would you?
there's going to be a bunch of folks who vote against this for a bunch of different reasons. There's going to be folks who vote against this because it spends too much money. There's going to be folks who vote against it because they weren't involved in the process and the leadership bypassed the committees. There's going to be folks who vote against it because it has something in it they don't like or it doesn't have something in it that they like. I've got a statement here from the Democrat Hispanic Caucus. I always like to call it the Democrat Hispanic Caucus because they don't let my Hispanic Republicans in the group. That's Carlos Cabello and Mario Diaz-Balart. It says the CHC cannot support this spending bill as it would fund Trump's border wall and mass deportation force. Okay, so there's a bunch of reasons that a bunch of different groups are going to vote against this bill, and different folks do it for different reasons. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Director. I wonder if you could talk about your priorities as it relates to funding Planned Parenthood. There are a lot of Americans who feel very strongly against the idea that the federal government is doing something that they believe either should be done privately or in concert with the states. And if I could follow, I want to ask you about your priority as it relates to the wall. When people see the other numbers, the wall doesn't seem like it's as high a priority as perhaps many Trump voters might have anticipated. Can you address that?
Sure, I'm sure Mick can add on the second one. But on the first one, I think this administration is very proud of our Stand for Life. From the very start, this administration has stood for life. In beginning with the Mexico City policy, having the first Vice President of the United States actually speak in person to the March for Life rally, the President addressed this year. I think that we've been very proud of that record. If you look at this legislation, it maintains every single pro-life protection in Hyde language and Helms language to make sure that no taxpayer dollars are going to fund abortions. That is the truth in this bill. Regarding your second question on the border security, keep in mind this bill is for the next 6 months of this fiscal year. $1.6 billion in wall funding is what we can expend over the next 6 months to actually do what we've been asked to do. And as the director said, it actually ends up providing more miles in new construction than what we'd originally asked for.
let me go over the details on that if I can, because I don't think this has been accurately reported. I think the Washington Times has an article out this morning suggesting we change policy regarding asylum and a couple other things. Those are inaccurate, and the AP is reporting that we can't build any of the prototype wall. That's inaccurate. Here's the line-by-line breakdown on the $1.6 billion. Okay. We asked for 28 miles of levee wall in the Rio Grande Valley. We got 25 in this package. We asked for 32 miles of pedestrian wall in Rio Grande Valley. We only got 8 there. We asked for 14 miles in San Diego, okay, and we got all 14 miles. That includes building the new type of wall that the president actually visited last year, the steel bollard fence with the concrete across the top, all 14 miles funded in this bill. We didn't ask for any replacement barrier, and we got 63 miles in the bill. We got more money than we asked for in technology, more money we asked for in roads, more money than we asked for in facilities, air and marine assets, border patrol vehicles, boats, weapons, more money we asked for than we asked for in CBP hiring and retention, and exactly what we asked for in planning and design. Did we get everything that we wanted when it comes to immigration? Absolutely not. Did we get a DACA fix? No. And let's make it clear, the president wanted a DACA fix as part of this deal. He had offered a large package with a complete DACA fix in exchange for the entire wall. He offered a small package, 3 years worth of a DACA fix for 3 years worth of wall. The Democrats in the House and the Senate have made it clear they think they're winning in the courts, and they do not want to fix this legislatively. We've reached out to them again and again to try and fix DACA, and they refused to engage on the topic. But on this, we ended up asking for 74 miles worth of wall. We get 110. Not exactly what we wanted, where we wanted. Congress chose to ignore some of the suggestions that the CBP made on where the best kind of wall should go, and that's unfortunate. And there's some other things we asked for that we did not get. There's some limitations on DHS that Congress put in the bill that we don't particularly care for. But generally speaking, we think this is a really, really good immigration package. One of the reasons the Democrat-Hispanic Caucus probably doesn't like it very much. The gentleman in the back, and then we'll go there and then there. Yes, sir.
If you put on the 14 miles to San Diego, is that replacing something that's already there, adding to it as a secondary? Because I'm trying to understand how it is that in San Diego you don't have any type of wall at all.
Yeah, well, in San Diego, it's a secondary wall. So I don't know if have you ever been to the border in San Diego? So there's the wall right on the border, and then there's the secondary wall. There's a two-wall system with some roads on both sides, and this is the secondary wall, which would be another wall behind the first one, and it's the prototype that's, again, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it has a name, but it's the bollard wall, the steel wall with the concrete across the top with a rounded covering in order to prevent grappling hooks to go over.
On February 12th, when you came in here, you said that really the only way to get a serious wall was if you got a DACA deal.
Yeah.
Is that still stand?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we got 110 miles. We need 10 times that. I mean, we want the whole wall funded. You've heard the president say he wants $25 billion to finish the wall, and we would love to have that. I think what I said in February stands today, which is the Congress will not give us that without a DACA fix, an immigration reform. And we want that, but they refuse to do it.
Just a little more clarity on that piece, because I think it's somewhat been underreported as far as the president's commitment here. What was well covered, obviously, was the battle on the DACA fix earlier this winter. As part of the omnibus, the president put forward, said if we're not going to be able to do the things that we want for larger immigration reform on chain migration and diversity lottery, then what I would look to do is to protect those who are in this country working hard who have DACA permits. Will you partner with me in doing that and funding the wall? Democrats said no. We came back after multiple additional conversations to something the Democrats had asked for previously, which was, will you give us 3 years of wall funding to keep these people here and protected for the next 3 years? The Democrats said no. What is clear at this point is the Democrats do not want a solution to this. This is a political weapon that they appreciate. They want to use the permit holders as political pawns in their game. And the president has tried to fix this problem and to solve it and has offered multiple different proposals, yielding in many ways where we started. But it is absolutely clear that the Democrats do no longer want a legislative solution to DACA.
But on that point, Democrats say they never were interested in a short-term, 2.5-year, 3-year deal for DACA recipients. Is that fair or not fair?
We would be more than willing to negotiate on the terms of it as well. The Democrats have shut down each and every one of those conversations throughout the omnibus because they appreciate this as a political weapon. They do not want a solution to this problem.
Gentleman here.
One of the other items that you wanted regarding protecting immigration was some kind of limitation on spending for sanctuary cities. The president had an event on it just this week. As we flew to California last week, the senior administration officials said it had to be part of the omnibus.
Yeah.
It's not. How are you ever going to get that?
It's disappointing to us. So that's not, again, a lot of the policies that we wanted to see in immigration we did not get. We got a lot of the physical structure, a lot of the money that we wanted, but a lot of the policies that we didn't get. And I go back to the original point that I think if this was a Republican bill, it would be dramatically different. The House actually passed all 12 of their appropriations bills this year. I don't think the Senate passed a single one off the floor. But the House appropriations bill for DHS was actually pretty good and contained a lot of our policies. That's the difference when you have to deal with that rule in the Senate, where you have to buy Democrat votes by either giving them stuff that Republicans don't like or taking away things that we do like.
So are you conceding that policy will never change?
No, we're not conceding that in the least. And keep in mind, the sanctuary cities, a bill passed the House that we supported and was voted on the Senate with 54 votes. To Mick's earlier point, the way the Senate rules are constructed now is obviously requires 60. It does have a majority in the Senate. It does not yet have 60 votes. You will see the president continue to make this a priority, and we will continue to talk about things like what's happening in Oakland that I think the American people are very disturbed about. And so we continue to raise and elevate the importance of this issue. We hope we'll continue to get additional votes in the Senate.
And thank you. This is for both of you. 2 follow-ups. One, on DACA, do you concede, or are you prepared for the fact that it now stays in place through the midterms? Have you effectively lost your leverage on that issue? And number 2, on the tariffs, is the president sparking a trade war?
the president's going to speak. In fact, we're going to have to wrap up here in a few minutes because the president's going to speak on tariffs directly in just a couple. So we'll probably take just a couple more questions. So we won't speak of the tariffs. Let him speak for himself on that one. On the first question, this was, I think, the best chance to fix DACA before the midterm elections. And like Mark said, the president has been actively engaged in trying to encourage a DACA solution, permanent, short-term, whatever, so that this uncertainty that's caused by the varying court decisions could be put to rest. But the Democrats, as he mentioned, they want this as a political issue.
So it's staying in place because a number of the president's core supporters want to see DACA done with.
I think the president wants to figure out a way to solve this issue, and that has not changed. We'll go there, and that'll be our last question, as we have to go.
Thank you. Setting aside the barriers that are secondary walls and replacements for something that was already there, I think by your math, you've gotten 33 miles of new barrier where there was nothing there before. Okay, is that about right?
Again, I can't confirm the.
Okay, given the numbers you've given us.
Yeah, it's safe to say that of the 110 miles, not all of that is brand new, that was previously didn't have wall.
Right, what you said was 25 miles of levee wall and 8 miles of new pedestrian wall. So 33 miles of barrier where there wasn't anything there before.
Yeah.
The president has said before he doesn't want to build a 1,900-mile wall, maybe half of it.
Right.
If you assume about half of it, at this rate, 33 miles in 6 months, it'll take you more than 14 years to complete the project he promised would be done in his first term. How do you square that with what his base expects?
And if Congress would give us the money to do that, we would do it now. To your specific point about the number of miles, keep in mind that if there's and I don't know if you were here the last time we did I think about 6 months ago, I did a presser on the actual wall. If you have a broken down chain link fence that you and I could walk through with no effort, and we put up a 20-foot high bollard wall, technically that's not new barrier. Okay, but it is effectively a new barrier, so I don't think it's apples to apples when you say that there's only 33 miles of new material. But the bottom line is, if Congress will appropriate the money, we will build the wall today.
What do you say to the president's supporters who say you guys didn't work hard enough to get that?
I would ask you to also keep in mind that this funding is for the next 6 months. We're already halfway through this fiscal year. We will be beginning to submit, we've already submitted budgets for 2019, and Congress will be working on that immediately. So we certainly continue to ask for additional funding to continue the wall throughout this year. This is for 6 months because Congress has been unable to complete the appropriations process, which has left us in a position of having repeated continuing resolutions, which doesn't have the same funding for the wall.
Two questions. One, first is for you, Director Mulvaney. To follow up on John's question, how would you have voted on this?
I get that question a lot. I'm not the 5th District Congressman from South Carolina anymore. I am the
Then how
director.
would you have
I'm the
voted
director of
for
the
it
Office of
before?
Management and Budget, and my job is to get the president's priorities funded, which
You've been in
this
that
does.
position, you can
There's a-
sympathize, you understand
There's a bunch
that.
of people who are going to vote no on this today, from the Hispanic caucus to the Freedom Caucus. There's a bunch of different reasons that people will vote against it. The president wants it to pass and wants it to be signed.
Second question, what conversations has the White House been having with Senator Rand Paul? Has the president spoken any assurances made?
I've not spoken with Senator Paul regarding this bill.
Has the president?
I don't know for sure, Caitlin, but I would also ask on John's question and yours as well. If you want to know where the administration stands, look at the budget we submitted. The budget we submitted cuts $3 trillion over the next 10 years.
But the president even had to be
Caitlin,
coaxed
that
to
is
support
the
this.
president's
That's why
budget. We have
Paul
to
Ryan was
work.
over here
We
yesterday.
have to work in getting 60 votes in the United States Senate. So if you ask where the administration stands, look at the budget that we've submitted to show where we'd be making cuts. The president's taken very seriously his commitment to making sure that the $20 trillion in debt that's been added by the last several administrations is overturned. We've put forward fiscally responsible budgets. We need Congress to partner with us on that.
Folks, so we have to go. The president's getting ready to speak on tariffs, so thank you all very much. Appreciate it.